What is up, everybody? Hope y'all having a wonderful day. This is your boy Shake Money, and of course, I'm always joined with my man, the Rabbit Dolphin, Luis, my cubano hermano. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
What's going on, Shake, man? I'm glad to be here, and bro, it's gonna be a good one, man. I'm really excited about tonight's show.
Shit, me, you ain't lying, man. Today we have the 1990 rookie team, a member of the rookie team, the 1990s All-Decade team, seven-time Pro Bowler, two-time All-Pro, and two-time first-team All-Pro, left tackle, the one, the only. I don't think he needs introduction, but Richmond Webb. What's going on, my brother?
Shay, Louise, how y'all doing?
Good, Richmond, man. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah.
And for you, man, I'm having what we call a Cuban coffee.
Come on with it,
Hold,
then. Yeah.
hold the coffee.
That Cuban coffee come in them little small cups. I remember that when I was in
Yeah, yeah.
Miami. That was some good stuff, but you couldn't
Oh,
have too much of it. So yeah, you're right about that.
yeah. Hell yeah, I won't be going to sleep anytime soon. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, offensive lineman 101. What do you think of our offensive line so far?
I think we got a pretty good group. I don't think we have the best offensive line in the league, but I don't think we need the best overall line. I think the thing that I really look at is we got good players, but they have to remain healthy and consistent in order for us to achieve the type of success that we want to have. So, um, like we had Austin Jackson last year. He was playing really well and then had the high ankle sprain and never kind of recovered from that. So we can't have the musical chairs or guys popping in. Now, if we can keep a core group together and get consistent play out of them week in, week out, we should be pretty good.
That's what's up. Uh,
Well, Richmond, I know I had a question because I remember your great days. I do believe you should be a Hall of Famer. We're going to try our best to get you in the Hall of Fame.
yeah,
I
yeah.
But
appreciate that.
I remember Dan Marino. He would take one little side step to the left or to the right, and it would help out the O line because that's all we hear. The O line needs to help the running game and the quarterback. That's all we hear. But when I look at Tua, his pocket presence kind of reminds me of Marino. He a shift left, shift right. Speak on that a little bit because we always hear how much the offensive line helps other people. But how can a quarterback that just a little subtle adjustments here and there, how that can benefit the offensive line?
Yeah, no doubt. And you are correct. And I think one of the things is with Tua, he gets the ball out extremely quickly, goes through his progressions, and he fits the ball in tight windows a lot of times. So that definitely helps the offensive line out. The quicker you can get the ball out. But as far as moving in the pocket, this and that, a lot of time that can buy you time. And I don't know what they're doing now, but I remember when I was playing, especially, probably when I got to like year six, five, I'm gonna say about after 4 or 5 years in the league, we came up with a drill where we would be doing one-on-ones against the offensive line versus defensive line pass rush drills. And then we would go 2-and-2. So it would be like me and Keith Sims would work against a defensive tackle and the defensive ends, and they might run different line stunts, and Dan would come down there and take snaps, and it would help get him used to that if this guy comes in, this guy loops or whatever, he could still shift, like you said, to the left or right, and that would buy him a little extra time to maybe give that receiver time to get the ball down the field. But that's something we worked on in practice. So when it came to the game, it was almost like muscle memory. He just naturally just knew kind of how to do it, and that would buy us some time, this and that, and help extend plays, and he could get the ball down the field. So I think that's vitally important. I'm not for sure if they doing it now. Everything's changed so much. I think they only get maybe 11 padded practices during the regular season. So it's a lot of stuff different, but as long as he has that awareness in the pocket to move this and that, and not just always take off running, which he's pretty settled in the pocket. I think he'll be able to make some huge plays, especially with the talent that's surrounding him at the wide receiver and the running back position.
That's what's up. You have any questions before we get the subject at hand, Color?
No, sir. I'm sorry to pop in like that. It's a flaw in the phone, but
That's okay.
just want to welcome the great one to the show. Appreciate you being here, Mr. Webb.
Welcome, Color. Glad to be on here with you, brother. Don't even worry about it. I'm glad
Thank
you're
you,
here.
sir. I guess a quick question, without knowing the where we were at in the discussion, but I grew up in a time where when you had just come into the league pretty much when I really started to get my football head about me, other than just being a kid not knowing what I was looking at. It's right around that era, the late 80s, early 90s, when I really started to get it. I watched as you and Keith came into the league and were prepared to kind of shore up that protection for Marino. That was kind of what was slated in the media, and all that. How did you feel coming in with that kind of responsibility on your shoulders, knowing that you had to protect, the great one, if you will? Just knowing as a rookie coming in, young guy, and all that put on your shoulders like that.
Yeah, great question. And I think one of the good things were me and Keith came in. I was the first round pick, he was second round pick, so we came in together and we just gelled instantly. And so, man, it made my job so much easier playing, right beside him. But the thing was that when we got there, Marino, I think that was his maybe 8th or 9th year, and he was already a legend. I mean, so it was like he had already, threw for over 5,000 yards. Duper Clay Marino. I used to watch them on Monday Night Football when I was in college and stuff like that. Watch them. So he was already known before we even got there. So to have an opportunity to play with a guy that caliber, it was definitely an honor. But the thing I think as an offensive lineman, when you playing for a guy that is future Hall of Fame or whatever it is, you don't want to be responsible for getting that guy hurt. So I think knowing that in the back of my head, and then also being a first round pick, and a lot of times you don't want to be a guy that's been labeled a bust or whatever, you have that type of motivation and stuff like that. So those were some of the factors. And then once I got there and I saw how Marino practiced, Duper and Clayton, and how they worked at their craft, it made me understand the type of work ethic you got to have in order to be really good in this league. It takes more than just be a talented guy. You got to put in the film work, the mental preparation, take care of your body, and then, do what you need to do in practice in order that you can perform at a high level in the games on Sunday and Monday. So I learned a lot from them, and I picked it up early, and I just continued to work. And I think that's why I had a lot of success. Of course I was, God blessed me and kind of protected and kept me healthy, but just having those type of examples in front of you, it made a huge difference.
Right. So there is a certain amount of elevation involved with that, with who you surround yourself with. Because I know that's a life lesson a lot of us learn is, surround yourself with successful people, and it's inevitable for yourself. But the fun question. Everybody knows me. I like having fun questions too. Did Marino ever actually purchase you guys isotoner gloves and all that?
They did. Gloves. I think we got some cowboy boots one year. Maybe like a little camcorder. Yeah, he looked out for us. He got his stuff. Let us know that he appreciated what we did. But yeah, the isotoner gloves, they came in handy when we would go to like New York, like Buffalo or the Jets or New England. Yeah, they had them isotoners. I miss those isotoners. I might need to tell him, see if he can still get me hooked up with a pair of them or something.
Yeah, I remember them commercials, and you never know if when people, commercial industry is, you just gotta. Sometimes I always like to get a chance to ask, did you really wear those? Did he really buy you all them gloves, man?
He actually did, and
That's great.
I didn't get to wear them much in Miami, but we went on one of the road trips or something. Yeah, they came in handy. Yeah, sure did.
Well, thank you for your answers. Appreciate it.
Hey, by the way, this is one of my prized possessions. A lot of people became damn Dolphin fans because of Dan Marino. I became a Dolphin fan because of this man right here.
B. Cox, that's my brother. Yeah.
This is my prize, but I only have one Dolphins card, and it's this right here. His rookie card.
Oh yeah.
Everybody talking about some. Why don't you get a grade? I said I don't give a shit what it's graded because I'm not parting with it.
Yeah. B. Cox was, he came in the year after me and Keith, but you could see early on he was I think Brown was maybe a 5th round pick or something, but you saw early on just his knowledge of the game. He could pass rush, he could play outside linebacker, he played inside linebacker, and he just made a huge impact early. And I think that's what makes the difference in a lot of teams and why we were successful. Not just hitting on your 1st and 2nd round drafts, but when you can hit guys in the 4th, 5th round or later rounds, and they become really great players that just really strengthen your football team. A guy like that is definitely a testament to that.
And he's the reason I hate the Buffalo Bills so much.
Did you learn? I see you learned his sign language too, probably.
Well, I tell you, man, that was it. He was the guy that finally stood up to them fans for us. He was our champion. We're going into that stadium, man.
Well, I think that was a perfect. I think that was a perfect segue. Segue. Shay. Speaking on Buffalo, Richmond, I remember as a young kid. Again, I a little bit older now, so I remember the good old days. Not saying that right now is not the good old days, but going back, I know the job of an offensive lineman is to do your job, know your assignments, those kind of things. But talk to us a little bit, because bro, again, not trying to blow smoke. Everybody knows me. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but I think some of your greatest moments was when you played guys like Bruce Smith. Talk about that matchup going into those games. I know you knew your job, you knew your responsibilities, but did you get extra motivation when you knew on Sunday at 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or 8 o'clock, whenever you had number 78 lined up across from you? Did you have a little bit extra?
78 on 78.
Like
I think you have to. When I came to the league, it was 2 guys. Bruce Smith was one, and Reggie White was the other one.
Oh, man.
And Reggie was on the opposite side. So those were the 2 guys that were considered the best at the position. And so having to play Bruce, 2 times, sometimes 3 times a year, you got to come with your best game. And I think playing against a guy like that helps bring out the best in you, because you want to see how you measure up against the best. So I feel fortunate to play against a guy of his caliber. Sometime I won, sometime he won. It's just the nature of the game. But it was a tough fought battle for 60 minutes, and we both got after each other, and I think we both respected each other. But it was just, man, it was.
See, to me, that's worth a Hall of Fame by itself, as knowing that Bruce Smith never owned you. You know what I mean? I mean, he might have had his days, you had yours, but he never owned you. You know what I mean? That's, I always equated it, call me a homer, but I always equated it when I was growing up to like Jordan Bird when it comes to offensive lineman versus defensive lineman. That's how I saw it. You know what I mean? Smith versus Webb, man. That was it for me. That was the pinnacle to me.
Yeah, and most people don't pay attention to the interior line play. But you probably could match it to something, but they get more excited. A lot of time they would hype it up where it was, they had Jim Kelly, we had Marino, we had Duper and Clayton, they had like James Lofton, they had Andre Reed, Steve Tasker. So, they had some really good teams when I first came in the league, and we would battle our times, and not only was, offense and defense was really good. So that's why, I tell people they didn't win the Super Bowl, but for them to go 4 years in a row is a testament within themselves, to be representative of your conference 4 years in a row. And I always felt that if they didn't miss that field goal against the Giants, I thought they played well enough to win, but, ain't nothing you can do about that. But, so we didn't like them, but you had to respect them because the body of work that they put together.
For sure. So let me ask you, let's get to the meat and potatoes now, brass tacks, if you will. All right, like I said, I'm gonna try to do this segment with other positions, and so I'm doing offensive line 101. So one of the things I like to get started with is training camp. Okay, I know we passed training camp, but for you, training camp, you have two battles, if you will. Not only did you have to battle against the defensive end who's trying to make a name for himself and make the roster, but you also had to battle the other left tackles on that team. All right, let's start with the position battle. How difficult is it to be friends with somebody who's trying to take your job, but at the same time still keep that same camaraderie, team camaraderie?
Yeah, I think, with me being a first round pick, I think it was a little different for me. I think because you're going to definitely get the opportunity to lose a job. The thing that was fortunate for me and Keith was the two veterans that were, they held out all the training camps. So we got a ton of reps, and that's how we won the starting position. But, it was different. We went 2-a-days, but they don't do that anymore. But the thing is, you work against guys that's been in the league. We were rookies coming in. And so you've got to adjust to the speed of the game, and you can tell it's faster. I mean, watching film, you would see holes open up, but they close right back. So I say, this game is a little faster, a little different, this and that. And then you had to try to get your rest because we would install plays in the morning practice, go practice. Then you have the installation before the afternoon practice, go practice. But every day they kept adding plays. So it was like you had to cramp, you had to try to remember that. And then when you're learning the offense, some of them you might remember, but if you don't remember, you're going to be a little hesitant. So the quicker you can learn the offense, the less you can just go out and just play rather than trying to think, okay, do I go this way, that way? Or if it's this front, if I'm uncovered, do I hit this guy? Once you can just go out there and react, the game speeds up much faster. So it was a lot to process. But once you learn, because you'll say, back then, I think we went to camp with like 80 guys or something like that. And then you got to cut down to 53. So you learn pretty quick that it's a business. And then each year you say, okay, if I don't prepare and do the things that I need to do, just like some of these guys got cut, I could easily be walking out the door the same way that they are. So that's the way I try to, keep things in perspective and remain a business. But if I could help a young guy, I would definitely help him, because even if we didn't keep him, it might be able to help him catch on at another team. So, and people help me. So that's just the way I looked at it.
By the way, we got Alabama State's Hall of Fame in the building. The OG, he's from your neck of the woods. What's up, Reggie?
What's up, boss?
Reggie, you from Texas?
I'm from Miami. I live in Texas. Went to Miami Central, been a lifelong Dolphins fan, and then went to Alabama State University. And after that, got a free agent trial with the Oilers and was on the practice squad for the first year, and then made the team 3 years, and then had a second knee surgery, and was glad for the opportunity. But more important than all of that, I got a chance to watch you, Doc, and it was a treat.
When were you with the Oilers, Reggie? What years were you with the Oilers?
From 93 was my rookie year to 96. So I played down there. You guys won with Pete Stoyanovich, kicked the winning field goal that year. And I immediately ran up to you and Dan Marino and shook your hand, Doc.
That was good old days. I remember the Oilers. Yeah. Love you, blue. That's it. Yeah,
they're running through.
Hey, Richmond, listen, I love Doc. I love Doc Reginald Brown. I've got to meet him or talk to him over the phone and in Twitter spaces and stuff, but don't hold it against him. He was on the field for the 35-3 collapse against Buffalo. Don't hold it against him, though, Richmond. He's still a good team.
I was really pulling for the Oilers to win that game, man. I mean, I remember that game. That's all I'm gonna say. I remember that game.
Yeah.
Same here.
Hey, that was a long
definitely.
Hey, by the way, Reg, I'm gonna say it for you, man. Louis, you're a hoe for that.
Yes.
Hey, listen, I love Doc, man. Doc, that's my guy, man.
It's all right, Doc.
Yeah,
No,
hey,
but
it's all good, bro.
so now let's talk about the defensive battle. How was it going again? Because you know what you had at the end of the day. I know you were a first round draft pick, but you also had Shula, who I stories where he didn't care where you were drafted. If you let a fifth round outperform you, he's gonna let him play. Would that be a true statement?
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. And that's why I gave the example of Brian Cox. You was telling me that was your favorite player, and I
Yeah.
understand. It was like he was a fifth round pick, but he came in and beat out some guys that would drafted higher than him. But you play the best player. That's the only way you're gonna win in this league. You can't say, well, oh, this and that. Get caught up. Every now and then you might get caught up in if a guy's making an absorbent amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
He might get out there, but you want to put the best guys on the field in order to have the best chance to win the football game. So yeah, he definitely did that.
So with those defensive linemen trying to make a name for themselves, did any of them really go hard, or was it really not that hard?
No, I had some. Most people know Jason Taylor, but before that, Jeff Cross. When I got there, he was a Pro Bowl player, so I practiced against Jeff, every year. So that helped me get better, helped get me prepared for a guy like Bruce Smith. And then I've worked against outside linebackers, Brian Cox, EJ Jr., Hugh Green. So I had a ton of guys that I could, I knew was going to play at a high level and really, put in work and practice. So you had to match their level of play. So it was guys that I had to get me ready. And you got to have guys that's, maybe not right on the same level as Bruce Smith, but maybe just a notch lower. That definitely helps you get prepared for those tough matches like that.
Well, Richmond, I know it's on the opposite side, but talking about one of our current players, our right tackle, it looks like it's going to be Austin Jackson. Can you speak on that a little bit? Tell us some of the things you like about Austin Jackson, and if there was one thing that you could, if you got your hands on him, that you would like to tell him and maybe help him out, give him some pointers, what would that thing be?
I was kind of mentioned Austin at the beginning of the show, and the thing is, like I told him, I said the offensive line. I think the key is for us is we'll have a bunch of depth, but for guys to stay healthy. And I thought he really started off really good last year, and then he had the high ankle sprain, and that kind of bugged him the whole year to where he really couldn't get back on the field like he wanted to. But the main thing with him, if he could just stay healthy, I think he finally kind of figured it out. They tried him at the left side, but he seemed like he was more productive at the right tackle. And sometimes things happen like that, but it was just he had the high ankle sprain. So if we can keep him healthy, I think we'll have a solid year out of Austin Jackson. Because I remember him coming out of college. He was young, but as far as the athletic ability and stuff, he has the skill set to definitely play and be a really good player. I think he was 20 when he got drafted. So I do believe if he would have stayed another year in college, it would have helped him. But they don't need talking about that. But last year, I thought he really made strides. Is just being able to stay healthy and being able to put together. This is a 17 game season, so if he can play the majority of the games, that'll be huge for us and play consistently. That's what I'm looking for out of Austin Jackson.
That's what's up. And let me ask you this: Did you I mentioned about you playing with other players that trying to make the roster. Has there been any offensive linemen that you took under their wing and then they didn't make the roster? Have you still reached out to them, or they still reach out to you for advice even though they're not on the team?
I remember I was always a guy that tried to help guys, and I've known other guys that went from Miami to other teams. I don't think that anybody right now. I remember Ethan Albright. He was a backup tackle, and he ended up going to Buffalo, but they basically used him as a deep snapper. And I think he probably played 15 years just deep snapping, for punts and field goals. So I remember him. But yeah, it was several guys because each year you get a new crop in, this and that, and then you're only gonna keep so many. But yeah, the thing that was my philosophy: try to help the guy because people helped me when I came in, And if you're not the best guy and you end up getting cut, at the end of the day, I could live with that. But if the way people helped me, I had to pay it back. So that's the way I just approached it. And that they helped bring the best out of me because I knew it was new, fresh competition coming in, year out.
Thanks. Hey, Richmond, I'd like to ask you this question. I get asked this a lot, and I love to hear your perspective on it. Uh, do you see a difference in the level of what they're calling concussions now? Like, as you know, that wasn't a thing when we played a concussion. It was you got your bell rung, and you went back out and played. So, based on what you've heard, what you know, is there a difference? And then, secondly, obviously, I don't want to. I know you probably done went through the BAP or got one coming up or something with all of our, what they're doing for us with the concussions and all that thing. So I don't want you to say anything that might limit your opportunities there. But if you can say, how many concussions do you think you had over your career? And then do you think there's a difference in what they consider a concussion?
It's definitely a difference. I think it's more focused on player safety now versus when we played. Like you said, you would get your bell rung and you might walk it off or shake it off, or they give you the little ammonia cap and you had to
Right.
smell the sauce. And that
That
was what was the norm back when we played. But now I think that all this kind of got brought to the surface. It's definitely more attention being paid to it, and even with Tua, I think they had a special helmet designed for him due to concussions he had last year. So, and then back when we played, if you had a concussion or something like that, it was almost like a lot of times we would consider a guy soft or he
Yep.
wasn't that tough. You was normally had to say, shake it off and this and that. So it's just, I think the narrative definitely have changed, but I think they start seeing some of the issues that guys had after they played, once they got older and stuff like that. So, I mean, I understand it, and at times I have to catch myself because I remember the way
Right.
we played the game,
Yes,
and you'd be
sir.
like, "Man, come on!" But
Yes,
I,
sir.
I understand it's player safety, so I
Definitely.
understand it, but I know where you're at with that too. So yeah, I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
And we got two of our family members, let's call them, from the
Yeah.
Fins tailgate. We just got Crypto up here and Ali. I'm sure they want to ask questions. Crypto, go ahead and listen.
And the
The
leader and the
fearless
boss,
leader,
El Capitan.
the fearless leader, El Capitan as well. So Crypto, Ali, and then El Capitan, welcome. And Crypto, do you have a question for Richmond?
Sure. Appreciate it, man. Uh, First of all, I want to thank you for keeping the greatest quarterback that ever played this game jersey clean and laundry bill low. At least I want to say that first of all.
Appreciate
Um,
it, Crypto.
yeah. Hey, playing next to guys like Keith Sims and Stevenson and guys like that, what would you say as far as an offensive line that's not playing with next that's got a tackle that's superior, but not necessarily playing next to guys up to the level of Keith Sims and Stevenson that may have issues. And if that guy was to go down, what would you normally say to the guys next in line, like the depth players?
The thing I was big on was and every now and you're gonna have that because guys get injured, but the big thing I was big on was communication.
Hmm.
And I would tell them, I say, look, as long as we're on the same page, no matter whether we're doing it right or wrong, if we together, I'm good with it. I said, we get to the sideline, I'll take the heat for it, but I need you to communicate with me, no matter if it's wrong or what. I can take the heat, but a lot of times, especially when it's a guy that's not used to playing,
Hmm.
and he get out there, a lot of time if he's not for sure, they don't want to communicate with you. And a lot of time I'll be like, hey, what you got? What you got? I don't care. Long as we're doing the same thing, the same direction. Or sometimes if you tell me that, I might say, hey, we got to go this way or we got to go that way, just depending on. So communication is key. But if I'm thinking to go left and you're thinking to go right, that can be a huge disaster. So I
Yeah.
always stress the guys that, man, you got to communicate with me, this and that. Don't worry about if we screw it up. I'll take the heat. You know, I never had a problem being accountable for anything. So I just want to be able to work as a unit and work and get the job done. So that was the biggest thing to kind of ease the pressure off of them, and they feel comfortable in this and that. And that was my thing. As long as we can communicate, we can get the job done.
Speaking of which, I just have a question. I have a question that's going to segue into that. Look, thinking about last year in the Houston game, right? Armstead left, and then we had Brandon Shell, who played mostly right tackle, played left tackle, which it's an issue in itself going from left to right. You know, that's a challenge in itself. But how challenging is it when you got offensive line that's been playing together for 5 weeks straight, and then you add a new piece in there, no matter where it is? Because the one thing about the offensive line, the unique thing is you have to play as one, not like wide receivers or running backs that kind of are individual players. But what are the challenges of getting a new player to gel with the offensive line? The chemistry
yeah.
rather.
And you're right. And like even with Shell, I think the thing that's different when you're a starter, you're normally set at one position, but as a backup, sometimes you take reps at the right and the left. So you might favor one more than the other, but at least you have a little familiarity with it. The thing I think that is, you know, especially your guard and tackle, sometimes your guard and center, just depending on the play or the front of the defense. Because sometimes I have to work with the tight end. It just depends. But the thing was when me and Keith played together, a lot of times we could just look at each other. We knew what each other was thinking, so we didn't have to say nothing. Somebody else comes in, I might have to be a little bit more verbal or talk to them this and that. So there are adjustments you got to make. But if somebody gets hurt, you have to make those adjustments anyway. So the key thing is to be on the same page. And sometimes the skill level may drop off, but you know you just got to deal with it and fight through it and keep that guy lifted up and encourage and stuff like that. But a lot of times, even in practice, sometimes guys will rotate. It just depends. Sometimes I will be with Keith, sometimes with the other one. So it's not like it's foreign language to you, but most of the time you just get used to that guy being there with you, the guy that you've been playing with, the starters, this and that. But every now and you have to make you gotta make a change just based on injuries or whatever, and you can't control that. So you just try to compensate as best you can. And the way that I knew to do that was communication, and we understand that we're doing the same thing no matter which way we're going, this and that. And that helped alleviate a lot of problems, because if you don't talk, it could get real ugly out there. You can really get somebody hurt quick.
Hey, Ali, do you have a question for Richmond?
Yes, I do. And I'm gonna second Crypto's sentiments. Thank you for your service and protecting the greatest quarterback of my lifetimes. Swear to God. Thank you,
Ali.
Appreciate that. Definitely. I will say, I'm glad you talk about, the youth players coming in and gelling with the offensive line. I have a two-part question that's kind of similar, but it has to do with another position in correlation with the offensive line. First of all, can you tell me how important is it that you, as an offensive lineman, connect with your quarterback, or vice versa? And my second part of that question is, do you think it's a lot harder nowadays for quarterbacks to connect to younger players, or do you think it really hasn't changed from previous years to now?
I guess it would depend on the quarterback. I guess the way I look at it, and my experience was, in most ways set up, the quarterback is the leader in the huddle, and so if he takes charge, everybody else falls in line. So when he makes a call, the only difference that, in a situation like that would be a little tougher is, like, say if Marino got hurt and say Bernie Kosar came in. Good quarterback, this and that, but their cadence is how they call the snap count and all that is a little different. So if we're used to going with Marino most of the time, we're used to his cadence. And so a lot of time that could cause you to get being late off the bombs because you hadn't had as many reps. I mean, we would rotate and practice the quarterbacks, this and that, but that's one thing that stood out was both of them were leaders, but the way they went through their cadence as far as calling the play, if it was on 1-2 or a hard count to try to get the defense to jump offside or something. The rhythmic pattern was different, so you have to adjust to that. But my experience has been most of the time the quarterbacks I played with, they were leaders. They took charge of the huddle and this and that, and as long as you do that, we should be fine. But yeah, if quarterback doesn't do that, then you're not gonna get anything accomplished. But he's got to know he's a leader. When he comes in the huddle, everybody get quiet, make the call, because you got to listen and know what you got to do on your assignment. So if you're not listening to him, you're not gonna know what the play is. So yeah, he's got to be the leader. That's how it's set up.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
What was the 2 part? It was 2 part.
Oh,
did I answer both
second
parts?
part, essentially you did. The second part of the question really was like, you've heard in the news certain quarterbacks now are having hard time connecting with younger players. Do you think that to be true? Or like you said, it depends on the quarterback. Do you think that's a bigger thing than just saying the youth is really not, connecting with the veterans, so to speak?
And let me say it this way: it's not 100% on the quarterback. I would put more of that on the head coach and how he runs his team and established. And it's just like when I came in, Shula was the coach, and you could tell right off whatever he said went this and that. If you wasn't willing to listen, you was gonna be gone. And the other thing that helped was, we had guys like Marino, Duper, Clayton, guys are already leaders. So we had to fall in line, and you don't want to mess it up, and they wasn't gonna let you mess it up. So it's good when the head coach sets the tone, and then everything else kind of falls down. But yeah, like you said, the quarterback is the leader and this and that. But if a guy is not taking it serious or something like that, if he's not listening to the quarterback, the coach or something needs to pull him to the side. And if he's not gonna listen, then a lot of times that player find himself either out of job on the trading block, or they're gonna get you out of there, because if you allow him to disrupt everything, it can only just get worse. Then another player can say, well, I can do it my way. You're not doing it to him, this and that. So in that aspect, I think you got to run a pretty tight ship, or have communication that guys respect. When you come to them and say something, that's not going to be tolerated. It needs to be addressed early on. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%, specifically in regards to, like, doing what you have to do, making sure you're where you need to be, and just do as they ask. And pretty much, you've heard Tyreek Hill recently talk about River Craycraft, and that's why he drafted him part of his receiving team during the training camp, because River Craycraft knows where to be. He doesn't have to worry about hey, you need to be lined up here, and saying things multiple times. And I think that's really important with the youth, is pay attention, listen, keep your head down, keep your nose in the books and everything, and absorb it all. I agree with that. So
yeah, no question. And you made a great point there. I can remember even playing with Duper and Clayton. Those were guys that Marino trusted, that if it was a third down and we had to get a first down, those were the two guys he was looking to go to. And then after that, it became like OJ McDuffie. We used to call OJ Mr. Third Down, because Dan knew if he threw the ball to Juice, we was gonna keep the chains moving. And when a quarterback has confidence in you, you're gonna get more looks, because he knows you're gonna do it the right way. And if you don't catch it, then ain't nobody else gonna catch you. You're gonna do your damnedest to come up with that ball, because you got that same mental toughness and attitude to keep the chains moving. And yeah, so that makes sense what Tyreek said about River Craycraft. That's awesome.
Hey, Richmond, let me ask you this: considering Vic Fangio and bringing him in, and then also considering Mike McDaniels as a second-year head coach, which one of them do you think going to be the biggest benefit to the Dolphins? Mike McDaniels as a second-year head coach and play caller, or Fangio taking over that defense? And I know that's a tough question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say I think Mike McDaniel will definitely benefit in two parts. I think he'll benefit because he's got an 1 year experience up on his belt, so now he kind of knows what to expect. The other thing is bringing in a guy like Vic Fangio. It takes a lot of pressure off him to where he's got former head coaching experience. So you add a guy like that to your staff, he runs your defense, and all you got to do is really kind of focus on your offense now. So it takes a lot of pressure off a young coach when you can bring in somebody like that that has a type of record he has, that typically finishes in easily the top 10 defenses year in, year out consistently. So you know that guy knows what he's doing. You let him do his thing, and then when it's time to come together, whether it's to challenge a play or whatever like that,
Yes.
they put their two heads together. It's Mike. I think Mike benefits. I think when you can add that type of experience and that high caliber of a coach, I think it was invaluable. So I think Mike McDaniel benefits the most because you got the experience from last year, but you want to keep improving your staff because the better your staff is, the better it's going to make you look.
Yeah, and one of the things I've been thinking about is I don't know if Boyer had the cachet to say to Mike McDaniels, "Hey man, punt that damn ball and let us play defense." Where Fangio can say that to Mike McDaniels, and he would at least receive it and at least think about it. Now, I don't know if he'll go with it, but he will take what Fangio says more serious than what he did with Boyer.
I can see that because, like you say, his record, it precedes itself. He's put it in. He's a much older coach. He's been in the game a lot longer, so you're gonna respect that knowledge if he's coming to you. I can agree with that.
Wait, El Capitan, you had something question? El
El
Capitan?
Capitan, the fearless
Yeah.
leader.
Yeah, I do. And Richmond, really appreciate you coming by. Same sentiment as everybody else in the room. I have a question. So, with Austin Jackson coming back, going to be the full-time right tackle starter, what growth and technique and stuff like that, with your expert opinion, are we hoping to see? We need an answer with this guy. It's a contract year. We didn't pick up his fifth-year option. I think we're high on him. He's leaned out a little bit. I'm hoping it's an answer at the right tackle position, which is, of course, Tua's blind side. What things are you going to be looking for with your expert eye to see that's going to tell you, hey, this guy's hitting it? Come early in the season, because I mean, obviously, late in the season, we're going to know the answer either way.
Yeah, I think the thing with Austin is he's just got to remain healthy and he's got to play consistent. And like you said, this is his fourth year. They didn't, extend his contract. If he wants that extension, if he wants to remain with the Dolphins, he knows he has to play to a certain level and be consistent. And then I think he's got to put together a string of games where he's played that way. And the way to do that is to stay healthy and on the field. So I think that definitely hurt him last year when he had the high ankle sprain and he never really could, recover from that, because those are tough to recover from, but you couldn't really show what you can do or what you can do on a consistent basis because he missed so many games last year. So I'm looking for consistency out of Austin Jackson. I think he has the athletic ability and everything to do it. He seems like he's much more comfortable on the right side than he was on the left side. So since he's over there, let's see if he can get it done and get it done consistently week in and week out. And I think if he shows that, I think he'll get a contract, at least offer a contract extension, or he can hit the market, but at least it's in his hands after that. But that's what I'm looking for from him.
So let me ask you this real quick. When he has a picture of, the avatar Shula, Don Shula, right? Let me ask you this.
Oh, yeah.
When you messed up, right? When you messed up a block or made a mistake, a mental error, who did you fear more, Shula or Marino?
Shula. Shula was the type of coach, even in practice, if you messed up, he could be way on the other side of the field in some kind of way. He would see it. And I remember, I think I got a penalty or something in a game one time. And I was walking to the sideline and I saw him coming. He was like walking, and I never looked at him, but I could hear him screaming and yelling. I was like, man, let me just get to the bench. I already know I messed up, but
You can feel
you
that
know,
1,000-yard stare.
yeah, he was just, he was gonna chew you out, but at the same time, he come back 5 minutes later. Okay, let's get it together. Let's go. So, you know, he was really a player's coach, but he was a stickler on, penalties, knowing your assignment, not making mental errors, because he understood that most games are decided by a field goal or something like that. And so the less mistakes you make, you know, the higher your chances of winning a football game. And I think that's one of the things that made him a great coach was he paid attention to the little things, and he was a stickler on that. And yeah, so yeah, he's great.
One of my favorite people. Let me ask one last thing. One of my favorite people, not for watching him play, but because of the media side, is Kim Bocamper. I love Kim Bocamper. I think he's a great, what he does. He did the Audible for a while, and one of the things he always said stuck out to me was when he said, "Hey, Coach Shula, I do good plays too. How come you don't acknowledge me when I do good plays?" He goes, "That's not my job. Your job is to do good plays. My job is to point out when you mess up."
Exactly.
It's that simple. That's it. Yeah.
So we know what the good plays look like. What do we got to talk about them for? They don't need to be fixed. You know what I mean?
You're doing your job. That's what you're supposed to do. So yeah.
So here's a kind of a more of a, I guess, a current X's and O's type question for the game coming up Sunday. First of all, how important is it when you're looking at a guy across the line at two guys in Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa? How important is it, first of all, to try to get out in front into a couple score lead so that you can mitigate that pass rush? And if not able to, what types of things are you as an offensive lineman going through in your head a night before facing a guy like these two, where, when it comes down to your fundamentals and keeping yourselves behind your skis, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think when you got guys that's really good pass rushers, stuff like that, one of the things that can help is getting your running game established early, and then when you do have to pass the football, I think sometimes you'll have to slide your protection, where we might slide to one guy, and every now and then you'll be in an island, but you mix it up because like you said, you got Mack and you got Bosa. Two of them was two of the top pass rushers in the league, so. As long as you do that, but one of the key things that definitely helps your neutralize those guys is having a running game and being able to run the ball consistently, and then mix it up. Because if a defense can neutralize you where you can do one thing, like just throw the football, that's when they pin their ears back. That's when you start seeing all the different games and stunts, this and that. But if you can run the ball and then mix it in, play action, pass and this and that, it keeps them a little bit at bay, because it goes say, okay, we're not sure what they're going to do on this play, this and that. It makes them play it a little bit more honest. But if they can neutralize and get you in a passing down where you got to throw the ball majority of the time, where you're trying to play catch up or stay in the game, where you get like you said, a couple of scores behind, then a lot of times you're forced to abandon the running game and try to catch up. So.
And that allows them to do their ballet, you know what I mean?
They got you where you want. They got you where you want. So yeah, that's it.
Well,
hey, Louis, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just for me, because I believe we only have about like 4 or 5 minutes left with Richmond. So I just wanted to get this out. Again, Richmond, I appreciate the time you came and you given all of us. It's been an absolute pleasure on my end. But I would be remiss to not ask you. I do see a white Texas A&M shirt on, good sir. And we have
don't tell me you're a Cane fan. Don't tell me.
Yes.
We're a lot of Canes fans.
Congratulations on your current number 23 spot.
Yeah, we have a big game. We have a big game coming up on Saturday.
Y'all be nice to my boys when they come down there. Don't
Don't let them bully you, Richmond.
It's still early in the season. Let us sneak in there and get one, and it ain't gonna hurt y'all that bad.
Well, no, I just
Richmond, don't do us like that.
So you trying to tell us to treat you like charity? Treat them like charity?
Don't do us like that, Richmond.
If that's what it takes to get in and get out of
Treat them like charity. All right, okay, I got you.
Listen, it's an early season matchup. We don't really have a lot of information on both teams yet, but just your early thoughts, Richmond. That would be my last question. Again, I appreciate you coming on, but kind of early thoughts on the game coming up Saturday.
Yeah, I think Miami's got a good football team. They came to College Station last year. I went to the game and ran into some Cane fans. Some of my friends flew down for the game. They were huge Cane fans, and they had a good time. Other than Miami not winning, but it was a tough fought game. But I think it'll probably be a close game like it was last time. I mean, I respect the Hurricanes. I don't think it'll be a cakewalk, but hopefully we can go in and sneak out of there with a dub. That I don't know, but I'm pulling for my Aggies too. Yeah, that's my old stomping ground. They play in pro player now, right? So it's like got a few mixed feelings. Yeah.
All right. 2 questions, and then anybody could ask their final questions. But 2 questions. Number 1, I have to ask this: what's the difference between playing a 3-4 and a 4-3 defense and a 8 in the box defense? Like, what would you say is the difference?
A 3-4 is you got 3 down linemen. So if you remember, a 3-4 was like playing the Giants with LT, Carl Banks, Pepper Johnson, and the other guy, or it's like playing the Saints that had Pat Swilling, Ricky Jackson, Sam Mills, and what was the other guy? I'll think of it in a minute. But you only got 3 down linemen, so typically you have a guy, 3 down linemen. You got a guy over each tackles and a guy head up over the center. Sometimes they can shift it to make like a 4 down, this and that. 4 down 3 is you got a guy outside the tackle, a guy over the guard, a guy over the other guard, and a guy outside the offensive tackle, and you got 3 backers behind the line. So,
which did you prefer to play? What was easier?
It depends on the personnel. It depends on the personnel, and both are effective, and both you can be really successful with. It's just the personnel and how well they execute and this and that. So, and you can achieve, even if you run a 3-4, you can make it look like a 4-3 by just sliding a couple people a different way and this and that. So it just depends on your personnel, how effective it's going to be. Yeah.
All right. And the last question is, like I said, Texas A&M, how excited were you when we drafted A-Chain?
I was very excited. And I think he's going to be ready for game 1. I know he had a little bruise his shoulder or something, but really want to see. Good kid, man, real respectful. I actually met him. I went out to watch the Dolphins practice against the Texans because I live here in Houston. And so I got a chance to meet him. I met a couple of other guys, but just to sit back and watch the practice stuff. I think he's going to be a valuable tool, and all this speed we got, I can't wait to see how we're going to utilize it. So I'm excited. Yeah.
Anybody got final questions before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I don't really have a question, but I just want to reiterate one more time. Really appreciate you coming around, Richmond. I'll let the other fellas if they got something, but we really appreciate you coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll reiterate that myself. Go ahead.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Richmond. You stopping by and chopping it up with us. What are your expectations of our offensive line as a group as far as them making the next jump? Because we went from like nearly last to like 22nd or 23rd. Do you expect the same kind of jump as far as the percentage wise, as far as moving up another few slots to be in the top half?
Yeah, I think you definitely need to be in the top half. And I mean, all it is a projection, and then you look at it, and then as a player, you got to say, no, we're better than what they have was projected at. You know what I'm saying? So
yes,
you take it personal to where you say, if we perform well, and I tell people all the time, it starts up front, the offensive, defensive line. How well those guys play dictates a lot of time your success, this and that. And so I think most of them got experience, this and that. Like I said, if they stay healthy, we should be somewhere between 10 and 15 easily. I think if they got us rated around 22, we should definitely be looking to move and improve, because that determines a lot of your success. So most definitely. And then you want to keep your quarterback clean and you want to keep him upright. So you take pride in stuff like that.
Okay, and also another quick one. Did Coach Shula ever say or emphasize resetting the line of scrimmage? Did he ever emphasize that?
What you mean by
Basically saying,
resetting the line?
basically, you got the neutral at the snap of the ball. If you reset it to 1 yard forward, you automatically got the advantage. Versus if the defense reset it 1 line back, you at a disadvantage. Did Shula ever say something to that aspect, emphasizing resetting the line of scrimmage as far as playing dominant football?
I think what you're talking about is, like, we had goals. Like, say if we ran the football, our goal was to at least get 4 yards per carry. You're not gonna get that every time, but you gotta set goals. Sometimes you might get 6 or 7, but if you can average 4 yards a carry, that's pretty good, because you figure that second and 6, and that puts the defense in. They can either run or pass, but if it's 2nd and 9, it's a higher percentage chance that you're gonna throw the football. So all that, the percentages, and they break it down, and they know that if it's 3rd and 2, you can either run it, but if it's 3rd and 5 more, most of the time you're throwing the football. So that's why I say the better you do it. And like you said, if it's 1st and 10, and then next thing you know it's 2nd and 13, because they hit the running back in the backfield. Now you're gonna say, okay, now in order for us to get a first down, we probably gonna have to throw the football. So it's a chess match, and you're right. Yeah, you want to win. You want to win more than you lose. Most definitely. That's a good question.
Yeah.
So, all right, man.
Appreciate that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Reggie, and then he's got to book it. So go ahead.
All right,
Last
Richmond.
question.
I was just gonna say, can you just leave us with one Don Shula story?
Yes, please. If you don't.
That's gonna be a classic
story. Okay, I give you this one. This was one, and I can remember my rookie year, and I had made the Pro Bowl, and we were in a team meeting, and Coach Shula announced everybody, but he waited to announce me. So I think it was me, Marino, Clayton, Jeff Cross. I think Offerdahl went that year too, but we had like 6 or 7 guys make the Pro Bowl. But he saved mine for last, and I think I could tell he was really happy. And then the thing that made me happy was how happy my teammates were for me to actually make the Pro Bowl my rookie year. And I knew I was with a good group of guys and this and that, but a lot of it was reflected on how Coach Shula coached us and got us to unify and this and that. So, I tell people all the time, the way I've been able to be successful even after football is some of the stuff that Coach Shula instilled in me as a player, because it helps you transition from once your playing days is over and stuff like that. So when you have somebody pour into you like that, man, you're always feeling indebted. But that's why, the players that play for Coach Shula talk about him the way they do. They love him. I mean, he was tough as hell, but at the same time, you knew he really cared about you and he really wanted to get the best out of you so you could be the best you could be. So I think that's why, people don't mind expressing how they really feel about him. So like I said, I'm always forever indebted. I'll never forget it, and I appreciate everything he did for me.
Well, I can tell just from that story, there's a lot of pride in that moment, and the pride that he gave you with the affirmation, and there's obviously a lot of love there. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Trust me, he didn't give you praise if you didn't deserve it.
He was rougher than you, Shake. I'm put it like that. He was way rougher than you. Yeah, I could have handled you, Shake.
So can everybody
Turn
else.
Them over.
Anyway.
Turn them over, Richard. Turn them over.
He didn't give me no Cuban coffee. I'm still mad at him. I'm going to get him later.
I got to send one express.
Yeah, I have to admit, I was way harder on you, Richmond, back when I was 7 years old than I am now, man. No doubt.
I'm glad you just softened up a little bit. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Hey, but by the way,
No,
before you got out here,
appreciate you again.
where can we find you, man? I know you do a podcast and everything like that. Please let us know where we can find you, man.
Yeah, normally Wednesdays, Finside the NFL with Reason and Mr. Ball Game. That's Reason's podcast, but every Wednesday night we
Finish Line, right?
Get together.
Don't you still do
The
Finish Line?
Yeah, the Finish Line, and then I'm on Twitter, Richmond Webb, Facebook, Richmond Webb, and I got to get better on Instagram, but I'm the real Richmond Webb. Somebody had that name, Richmond Webb, so
yeah, man,
I'm the real Richmond Webb on Instagram. But yeah, other than that, that's how you find me.
But you know what? I got to give a testimony because at the end of the day, we never met before. I just reached out to you, and you agreed to come on, and to give me, not knowing who I am, you gave me that opportunity, and just like you, man, I could see you pay it forward, man, and I'm gonna do the same thing going forward, man, because this is a beautiful thing, man. When you see somebody that's trying to come up in the YouTube game or whatever, and then you're helping me with this, and it's gonna come a long way, man. I think you've built my confidence and strengthened my belief in if you proceed, if you're persistent enough, good things is gonna come. And I appreciate it.
Don't start crying. Jake.
Yeah, you just keep,
Shake, dry that up.
Yeah, you just keep grinding, brother, and like you say, the hard work it'll pay off. It's gonna come together. You just gotta keep pressing through, and then once you break through it'll take off. So yeah, just don't forget about the little people like me, Luis, Color, El Capitan. you don't forget about us. Ali, Crypto.
Hey, it's my podcast. I can cry if I want to. Okay?
Exactly.
We can edit that out later, Shake.
Hey,
right, man.
Let's get this man in the Hall of Fame. He deserves
no
it.
doubt.
We got the push coming.
Man.
Well, you're already in the TFTG Hall of Fame, so you don't worry about that.
That ain't no lie.
Yeah. All right, man.
Look for the plaque in the mail.
With that being said, man, fins up, and we out this.
Fins up. I appreciate it. All right, y'all have a good evening.
Good evening, man.
Likewise,
you too, man.